Welcome. So I love that it says that now. I don't know. I don't remember it saying that before. This is our Thursday book launch. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. And tonight we're going to have a lot of fun celebrating with Sam Barbee, an uncommon book of prayer. You can either order it through Main Street Rag, or you could contact Sam if you want his autograph. Paul had a great idea for inscriptions. They have explaining to do. I'm going to turn it over pretty quickly. If you'd like to read for open mic, send me a message. We do have a pretty active chat. Sam, you don't have to worry about paying attention to that, though. I'll kind of pay attention to it. So if you have questions as Sam is reading, or if there's a line that resonates, whatever you want to put in the chat, I will take care of it. And I'll send that to you probably in the next couple of days or so, probably before I get the video up, because sometimes that can take me a while on rural internet. And with that, I'm going to read just a little bit about Sam, if you didn't know. Former president of North Carolina Poetry Society, and now the chair of Poetry in Plain Sight. His poems have appeared in Poetry South, North Carolina Literary Review, Crucible, Asheville Poetry Review, and the Southern Poetry Anthology, Kakalak, Pembroke, among many others. Also online journals like Courtland Review, New Verse News. His second poetry collection was published by Press 53. Mm-hmm. The rain we needed, and that was nominee for Roanoke-Chowan Award. And somebody's already got a message in there, so I'm gonna go down and see. Okay, thank you. That'd be fabulous, Elaine. Thank you. He was awarded artist grant from the Winston-Salem Arts Council to publish his first collection, which was Changes of Venue, Mount Olive Press. And with that, Sam, I'm going to turn it over to you and make you the spotlight. So be prepared to see yourself.
Nice.
Large.
Okay, then. Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank Malika first and foremost for putting this together and so consistently, and inviting me to join in tonight. The Uncommon Book of Prayer, I began this in 1999 when my family and I went over to Oxford, England to visit with friends. My friend George was a student at Eton, and he invited us over to stay with him and his family to catch up, and also use his home as a hub for day travel around Southern England. We just rented a car and risked all the opposite lane driving, and off we went. And I kept a journal filled with notes, starts of poems, some metaphors and images that seemed worthy, and the English vocabulary and diction. But seeing the England through my children's eyes, who were 9 and 7 at the time, gave me some alternate slants and perspectives that I could use. The collection is not a travel log. We had no list of places to see, and we reshuffled our plans every day. It was the days evolved with no real pattern, and we just pointed at the map, found a destination, turned the car key, and off we went. But I will read the first one. That is the setting is in their condo or apartment. On most of the poems, all of them actually, I put the geographical location of where we were when, I started them. Familiar surroundings. A basin of water revives me. In my friend's apartment lie scattered stacks of Le Monde newspapers, German classics, biographies of composers, Mozart's strings on Time Morning Air. Cappuccino with breakfast, we partake pastries and scones from the neighborhood market, each baked as we slept in. And there's a corner pharmacy, bus riding, qualified car mechanics, loud neighbors are cordial. England and all her history, stone towers and colleges, Celtic crosses, lush meadows across countryside in view. We ride a bus, walk to and from. I will strive to balance the antiquity with fresh views and vistas, inhale it and blend it day by day. At home, our paper arrives, but I do not read it. Own Mozart quartets, but do not play them. Could grind my coffee, yet do not. Children glide about cobblestones, accept new routines, overcome jet lag. Do not reminisce asphalt, dismiss white noise on TV. This morning, I shuffle Mon ami le monde, add Kahlua to my coffee, a similar twist to Sunday mornings across the sea. End. Please feel free to ask if you have a comment or question about any of them. It's not going to interrupt my rhythm because I have none. So just whatever you'd like to say, I welcome it. Another one, some of our day trips turned into overnights. A couple even 2 overnights, 2 nights over. And we would stay in B&Bs around the country. And one of them was Whole Mill Inn in Branscombe, which is in Devon. And Whole Mill Inn is the name of this poem. By eventide, stars crawl the horizon at Branscombe by the sea. Miles into the valley waits Whole Mill Inn, a Tudor cottage. Ivy supports stone walls and roses prop banisters around a slate veranda. A stream spins a water wheel. Our host informs me we have a fox out there. He filched the rooster. Our children rollick with white geese and downy chicks tumbled into a pond. The gander drags himself over dew to protect them, hip failing him. Wingspan still wide, but the proprietor picks him up and pins him. Good old fellow. Got stuck in the flowers, makes a mess of them, Downstream eel and trout cut water. My children brave the bog, mud to their ankles, and pluck glowworms and newts. I kneel on grass beside the gander to witness his whirl from a granite stoop. He honks to summon his flock, and they return to his domain. Lilacs and geraniums nod as slugs emerge onto stones. I call out as children venture into the bramble. Moon powders the garden. End. I read, we stayed primarily in Southern England, and we were at Cornwall where they had the summit a few days ago, and they had a shot of St. Michael's Mount, which is an island castle or island monastery. And it's a beautiful place, very inspiring. This one is called Anthology. Gets a little bit back to the family. Driving our car through Cornwall's shaded back roads, radio thunders, Beatles songs. I recall how Rolling Stone recently interpreted each Beatles song's basic meaning. On the learning curve of left lane driving, my warm beer and your bottled water at sighs about the group's demise. I consider our children's backseat life, forced connections with our adult world. They doze, naps cluttered with our sparse lyrics, those rationed, which will ring empty in their songs and psalms, clumsily overlaid with our yeah, yeah, yeahs. I realize our tunes will never let them be, always hummed down long and winding roads. In southeast England, at the end of the island is a place called Land's End, where Vikings supposedly came onto the land. So it's a very stark place, and everybody or some people may be familiar with the clothesline Land's End. It's supposed to be rough and tumble stuff, and you would have to be rough and tumble to live here. Incursion, Land's End, Cornwall. What did Vikings behold at land's edge? Ruddy rock crag and caves to nowhere, gulls bunched under cliffs, bull sharks in the water. Leaping off vessels lashed onto unnamed terrain, far from Valhalla and salted meat, from home where lilacs tint and heather greets. 270 degrees of ocean, the island's tongue laps the sea. I shuffle through the tourist maze, cornice hedges, museums propped on rock, gift shops pledge. White huts near a jagged church, chiseled Celtic cross beside a druid's garden, stone pillars erected to gauge dawn, compacts drawn once upon a time, gulls sail and sharks swim the sea, not beckoning, but content with instinct and their innate bond. Let's see here. This is very unprofessional to not have your poems lined up like I should. Here's one in Bath. We talked about Bath. Well, actually, backstory to this is when we were in Land's End, we drove, to Tintagel, which is up the coast, an hour or so, and where King Arthur was supposedly born, and on to Bath, which is in, more inland. And it took us about 4 hours. And our host there thought we were nuts. They said, "You drove 4 hours in one day?" And I said, "Well, yeah." It's just they have a different perception of travel over there. Of course, they can walk anywhere or hop a train. But this is what takes place in the underground baths in Somerset. Titled Levels, page 40 for those of you who are reading along. Those Romans did things right. Bath proves it. Boiling underground spring adapted to a spa, complete with Turkish baths and saunas, fit for fat senators and their legions of young men. Submerged under mud for centuries, built over, rediscovered by chance. My son moves about on his own, through relics and ruins, explores different levels, stone chambers with fluted columns, a Celtic gorgon smiling down, private bathing pool enjoyed by centurions, the Victorian elite, monks from the abbey. Different eras reveal rings stained with iron and sulfur. My child moves far ahead, peers across the green pool into a different archway, looking perfect among bleached shadows, chestnut hair sun-glossed. I wave. His palms flash to me for a moment, foretells this new season when devotion and independence must mingle. He moves through the hot bath, the cold bath, touring as student, as warrior, asserting his philosophy. I let him go and reminisce, taking strolls, my arm on his shoulders at bath times, immersing him as muscle-bloomed definition taking hold. In Warwickshire, there's a castle, Kenilworth Castle, which was a site where Queen Elizabeth stayed when she was romancing Robert. He built it for her, but he also built a private residence near it for her to stay in. This is titled Place of Fire. A sturdy castle centuries ago, ruddy walls 20 feet thick. Now only central tower endures on the green hills of Oxfordshire. Yet no stalwart bastion could be consummate without its scripts and legends, whispers. For his queen's visit, the Earl erected special quarters, as politesse required Elizabeth dwell a proper distance from Kenilworth's wall. From the dining hall, from the ballroom and the dancing, even the favorite Eastern vista. For her scant 19 days of celebration there, Robert provided fresh fruit and smoked elk. They strolled the curtain walls each morning, afternoons in gardens, rondo by night, damp satin, moonlit beneath Avon. Today the rosy castle, ruins left behind by time and Cromwell. The roof burned away, arched windows dismantled. Cold Horace echo revelry in a floorless great hall, feasting, fables, and La Volta. Gravel pathways and labyrinths restored, the muse grand and empty, wait out cold morning. Yet never compromised, Elizabeth's quarters stand, the scarlet kiln of pretense blazes, writing a different idol of Shakespeare country. Let's see. Here's one that I had fun with. This is one that Scott published when he had his Bars and Burgers anthology about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'd been without, I made a point to stop imbibing, several years before we went over there. But I fell off the wagon here. And this, I thought, well, hell, I'm in England. Nobody here will tell. This was in Oxford, in near the colleges. It took place in Turf Tavern, Queen's Lane. Stars hang visible above high walls, above gray stone turrets and Teddy Hall. Like a thirsty mouse, I pursue the maze over loud cobblestone passages laid centuries plus century ago. Past another college to the tavern, through the impending nightfall's cavern, I marched distracted from Norman arches, massive oak doors inside doorway notches that never lead to a place I know. Been half a decade since I last imbibed, set all my gargoyles and grotesques aside, but tonight I'll sample some house bitter with a bowl of bar nuts, forego chatter, crawl back down that familiar road. This old speckled hen holds the aged clue. Turf Tavern's house ale, I greet my new brew. Wrote fables and bar talk, both etched granite, to good old days, as the Queen explains it. Off with my head when the shadows grow long. Let's see. How are we doing on time there, Malika? I don't want to cut into the open mic.
No, keep going. I think we are, because we started late, so we got another couple of minutes. Please read. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. Also in Oxford, they have many churches everywhere over there. And this is another rhyming poem. I don't write a lot of rhyming poems, but they did lend themselves to a few places. This is Christ Church, titled Forgiveness of Sin. Shadows escort me from barren domain, conjoin through distance with what remains. This ornate altar where the blemished sip, white candle's grace blurs on a gilded cup. Silver chain dangles on the Virgin's wrist, her thumb crosses my brow to mark new trust. Proclaimed promise bodes a gift of rebirth, braced souls proceed with a new sense of worth. Each spirit quenched for the impending day, stained glass ignited by radiant sky. It was really, we went to many churches. My wife's a preacher's kid, so she wanted to go to as many churches as we could. And we went to one where the noon mass, and they were reciting the Lord's Prayer. And all these people are there, visitors, tourists, and they're all saying it in their native language, which I thought was so cool. Always chokes me up to tell that story. Okay, another one back in Oxford, page 2. Iffley Lock. Weary of history, my loud children scamper the mole-heaped yard. Play tag around a big U. Celtic tombstones dimpled from 5 centuries of English rain lean against a shaggy rock wall, their weight too much for damp earth. The church propped on Norman arches and splotched with carvings hushes the day. I point out a face to the children, the green man etched in Cotswold stone. Grass around a stump swells with early evening breeze. Past the vicarage to the Thames. A lock helps small boats along. Butterfly swarms escort us across Victorian Bridge. Poppies thrust color against a gravel walk. The children grab stale bread from our bag to feed ducks and their molting babies. With house brews and shaded garden, Morrell's pub naps by the path. The children swing in an oak tree while we chat on pressed grass with our bitters. Beyond the levee, a griststone leans against a thatched cottage. As we bore them with parables of bounty and toil, I insist the children pose by the rounded tool. In the lane, a man trains a Welsh cob to pull a tourist carriage about Oxford. His pony, Arlie, was 7. By that ripe age, both horses and children live out habits you teach them. Our children gallop, baying, snorting, tossing their heads. We rein them off the cobblestones into the Peugeot. Arlie stops to graze brambleberries from the pasture fence. Sunset tosses a sundial shadow to the church spire toward us. Okay, let's see. I'd like to read my Stonehenge poem, since it's a little bit longer if we have time, since the cover has Stonehenge on it. In Wiltshire County, Stonehenge. The title of it is Borders. Distance dotted with sheep and Guernsey, vales and streams and plumes of trees, a checkerboard of pasture and heather, lilac and rapeseed await harvest. From horizon to forever, the Salisbury Plain convinces there is no reason to rush. It provides the view that never recedes and allows dusk lush cushion for sleep. Stonehenge broods on the smooth ridge. Silent summons prehistoric peal to worship among the 3 rings, across Barrow beneath summer solstice sky. Welch stones erect for the short night, lintels bridge one monolith to another. From a hinted millennium, a pastoral odyssey, perfect circle toppled but right unbroken, allows each sunrise entry to the altar. Adjacent fields host lambs chasing ewes across the meadow. A farmer leans against a bale wagon. His children wade through deep grass toward unsheared sheep, singing to the sacred ring's slaughter stone. Here the perished wake in the blood beside the path. Lily blooms along the swale. Within hedgerows, arterial vines replenish gnawed stubble and gird the acres for new seasons. Collies herd the Guernseys through a stream while a splash of clouds immerses into nightfall, ushering visitors through the cedar gate on breadth of the stone's late shadow. A tradesman trims the briar, slashes an unruly virgin thorn. Okay, thank you. I'll read the last one for my last poem. Entitled British Isles, again in Oxford. Ireland, Scotland, Wales, locks and lofts, Isle of right of man, united a land of islands, of tides, realm of Jersey, Guernsey. I read Donne's laments, how she cuddles stupid calm proves a rotten state. or Kipling's ifing imperialism to prove the sun never sets on the empire. Sorry, sirs, but I am content as a man about your island, celebrated kingdom blessed with random bounties. My wife and clutch of children found your chapels and gardens as delights on these enchanting shores. The me, the us, balance my world as your islets enliven your ragged, raging continents, christened when flogged by gales, humbled and blunted by surges, aflame with prayers as beacons in corners, chapels, and crags. Ta-da.
Did you say ta-da?
Yeah.
Oh, Sam, thank you so very much. That was amazing. I'm gonna put us to a gallery view so we can all
Please do.
together.
I've got this big picture of me here staring.
I know it's a hard one to get used to when you first get it. You're like, oh, I can only see myself.
I'd rather look at that big picture right there.
Yeah, all of us. Thank you so very much. You know, I noticed we had a couple of lines that resonated with people at the same time, but I also think Laura really hits on something. So Laura, you lived in England for a while and you said that his images are bringing such vivid memories back to you.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I lived in Yorkshire, but we spent some time in the South and toured that area, and it was just, it brought it all back. Absolutely. Wonderful.
I think that is a validation. I appreciate that.
Oh.
But there's an exactness to the words that he uses and how Sam, it's a lovely thing. How you create your poems with such vivid images is really lovely. And I was going to ask you, like, I almost wondered, you know, so you said you started this back in 1999.
Yes.
And you took notes of the poems. Did you research when you revisited them?
Somewhat.
That's right.
And also, my wife is a world history teacher, and so she said, "Oh, you know, any museum you go to is just agony because she reads every placard in the whole place." I'm ready to go. The kids are ready to go, but she's about halfway through, you know. So, but she has a photographic memory, and she gave me some good background on some of the things, especially the Henry VIII eras, and you know, it was.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it felt like it was so complete with, like, not just a door, but a cedar door. I mean, there was certain ways that you really scanned a whole scene and brought it to life that I enjoyed thoroughly. And I thought, gosh, this can't just be from memory. So that's why I asked it.
You know, I really wanted to explore the antiquity, but to bounce it off of my children.
Yes.
And just that, try to help them realize there's another world out there. You know, they were young, and really they've said they'd like to go back. Now they're 30 years old, and would like to go back.
Well, what was great, and actually several people said the baths, and then evoking bathing the child. That was a lovely poem. Devotion and independence must mingle. That's what Melinda wrote down with that. So there, and the other moon powders the garden. Yeah, that was lovely. That was very painterly. There was some images that to me were like watching a painting being painted with words. It was beautiful. So if people have questions, feel free to pick Sam's brain. Jump on in there.
Jump.
So what brought you back to the poems? Why did you set them down? You just needed time to steep, or?
Well, I would work on them. You know, I've been through, as I know all of you have, numerous critique groups, and I always burden my critique groups with them. You know, one or two, you know, and I got a lot of help on these poems. I mean, you know, they've evolved quite a bit from the skeletons. You know, they're good bones to start with, but I think you know, it really helped to just set them down for sometimes years, and then get them back out, and you know, remember what the experience, how it's significant then, how its significance then, and its significance now have changed a little bit. But it took a long time. 30 years. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah. Well, I think that what you were saying about like how as poets, some of us do really get a lot from critique groups, and sometimes in rewriting, that's what opens the door again to revisit a poem. But you don't hear a lot of poets. I haven't heard a lot of poets in this past year talk about, you know, the interaction of others with their poetry and that poetic process. Speaking of poet, I mean, how often do you write? Do you have a certain way of approaching poems, or?
Well, I try to feed the muse about every day. I mean, my wife is, you know, God bless her. She gives me solitude.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm upstairs or I'm downstairs and she's upstairs doing what she does. And she's a busy person too. And it just works out real well. We do so many things, you know, that, you know, you need peace and quiet to accomplish them. And I try to write, you know, every day, or rewrite, or drag out 30-year-old poems or something, and, you know, just see what can be done with them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. It was lovely to hear a multitude of them read together. And yes, y'all can unmute so he can hear you clap. I sort of think that's so weird. You can see people clapping.
That's great, Sam. Thanks.
Yes, wonderful.
I wanted to go back over some of the, make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat section, but I will send this to you so you can see what you know, people resonated with. Yeah, content with instinct. There was a lot of different lines. I was noticing too, chiseled Celtic cross. There was some really lovely language in so many of the poems. The musicality was lovely.
Well, there are a lot of references, descriptions that use the same pieces of architecture, whether it's arches or, because that stuff is everywhere. I mean, there's not much steel and glass out in rural England. I mean, it is just beautiful there. You know, the way things were going, you know, if I was 30 years younger, I would have moved back over there if the election had gone a different way. I mean,
I think you would have been, we would have been a couple of expats going different places for sure. No doubt. Well, thank you again, Sam. And
I have to say too, I really enjoyed the rhyme in that I forget the name of the poem, the pub one. That was great.
Old Spokane, I finally found it in Winston-Salem. It's at one of our bars here.
Yeah, no, it's nice to hear rhyme, you know, just subtle, but then working through it and how that moves a poem along in a different way. Nice, Jean. All right, guys. Well, if y'all have no more questions for Sam, we can go to open mic. I have one person signed up so far. Is there anybody else that would like to read? Melinda, Jean, Paul, Laura.
Not tonight.
Well, maybe we could just tell you we do it, but let me go to the chat and I'll officially put it in there.
Otherwise, you know, I just have to ignore it. Elaine has already offered to read, so we will start with Elaine. And Elaine, I'm coming your way. There we go. Hi, Elaine. Glad to see you. And I'll put you as the spotlight.
Hi, everyone. So nice to see you guys. Happy to be here. Okay, so I guess I'll do a poem. I'll read more. I want a poet kind of love, carefully crafted, one that keeps falling, a love committed, ardent and feverish to find and unveil, to drape in symbolism. I want a poet kind of love, frustrated and eager to give a heart with its trinkets and treasures, afflictions and pleasures, one that bleeds for growth and sows seeds, that sinks to uplift and won't let go. Of the pen, of the words that come like a perennial stillness or ephemeral enchantment. A poet kind of love, in free verse or iambic pentameter, an ode for finding completion in the act of never really completing, for the captured moment, regardless of how dreadful, because someone is there to share it with. And the moon and the stars are not enough, and the flowers and trees are not enough. The overwhelming feeling, the impetus to embrace that kind of love that aligns and breathes metaphors and similes, that grips and grapples for continuity, a flow, a progression of more stanzas yet to be written.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Thank you so very much, Elaine. Yeah, were you
That's
reading
beautiful, Elaine.
Were you reading from a book?
Yeah, I have two books. One
goodness.
is Sweat Dancing Cut. I also have another book called When, and the one that I just read got recently published in Beyond Words Literary Magazine.
Oh, that's gorgeous. The covers for those are really beautiful.
Thank you.
Who did the artwork? Is that something that?
My friend, just Lenny Brito.
It's really pretty. I just felt like it was somebody you knew. It seemed very personal. That's lovely. That was a gorgeous poem. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I love this. Paul, I've got you next, officially in the chat section.
Okay. This is a poem that came out recently in Red Fez, which I've worked with those guys a lot, and they'll have actually a reading celebrating their last 2 issues on Tuesday at 7:30. And of other readings coming up at 10 o'clock Sunday week, this coming Sunday. Speaking of groups, the little group that I've worked with and continue to work with in my first readers, the Red Sox, the Black Sox, 3 or 4 of us have poems coming out in a special sort of food and nourishment issue of Indelible, which is out of American University in Dubai. That's why it's 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. So we'll all be doing that. Red Clay Way. Here vowels form furrows, bite deep into the red clay, stretch their length across the field. Words seem relaxed, more real, after working a full day. They try to ask what we know, what we plan for tomorrow. The slow roll of what we say is honed in the land we till. So many of us, by now, have wandered far from the plow. In our other lives, some sounds stay, still reach back to early speech, to stories we must tell that follow us like hellhounds that will never lose our trail.
Ooh, I love that. Paul, that is awesome. It is really good to hear. That feels like a very different poem than what you read in some of the open mics. I just really enjoyed that.
Well, thank you.
I love that people have such range of what they write about and how they write. That is really fun. That's one of the benefits of getting to hear each other over a period of time too, Paul, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about Laura, how you and Karen and Christy have all, just expanded so much with your writing, and how much I've enjoyed getting to hear multitude of poems over time. That is fabulous. Melinda, I'm coming to you next. Make sure you unmute.
Okay. So I thought I would read a poem that I've been working on since 2014, because Sam was talking about going back 30 years, and this is one that I'm still working on it. So it's called Richies Skeletons. The cop told me his name was Richie when I called 911 to complain about a guy called Reggie camping out in my portico, arguing with himself. His voices kept a strange sort of company, but they never shut up. And since my bed backed against the wall that separated my apartment from the entranceway, it really stunk when they all squatted there. For 20 years, Richie, appeared each spring like a starling, landing on the Upper East Side to survive almost every ambulance that carted him away when he passed out. I used to wonder if Richie saw me through his unfocused eyes, and it scared me to think of who he did see when he looked at me. For when my mother's features reflect back from mirrors, they startle me, especially in profile. On good days, Richie sat in a vacant storefront on 78th Street with his body powered only on fumes and drew ballpoint skeletons across corrugated box canvases. I miss those fragile beings dancing across drab cardboard, perfectly proportioned drawings, for he knew their every atom and made even dry bones boogie.
Wow.
Mm.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. I have to tell you one line in particular, and I was suddenly startled when you said, "I miss those fragile beings." Wow, that was such a startling line. Thank you, Melinda.
Oh man, those little drawings that he made. I mean, this guy that was just, you know, so random. Even with his clothing, he was random, you know, and to make such beauty. It was something.
And I love that Sam inspired that. I'm sorry, Sam.
Oh, I just said it's a great ending. Good way you closed it out really, really strong.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jean read, Richie appeared like a starling, survived every ambulance that carted him away. Yeah, some really vivid lines there. Thank you so very much. Let me see. Did nobody else signed up? No? All right. Well, Sam, do you want to read another poem? I'd love to hear another one.
I'll read one that's not in the book. How about that?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a love poem. I should read a love poem every time, I think. It's called Love Land. I would offer you Paris next year or the year after. City of Lights, Notre Dame, the Louvre, a meander on the Seine's west bank. A drive to the wine country, Burgundy scarf rippling in a top-down Porsche. You have no interest being there. But here, content surrounded by jonquil dazzle, sipping sun tea in shade to quench desires, journey within your constant place, unreachable by sea or air. It awaits you, just outside the door, just off the porch, barely beyond the brick patio. You demolish any obstacle, transport yourself, but you take me where lovers ache to visit by alternate routes. My conqueror who chases away doubt, slays fear. Inside your garden's rusted gate, I curl on wooden stairs, gnarled in breeze where I never felt safe. You wrap me in your maroon blanket and surround me in ambience of high art. Oh,
That's awesome. Oh, that's fabulous.
Really nice, and nice to hear that with Elaine's poem too.
Yeah, I was going to say we had a bit of a spicy, some love poems. That's beautiful. Yeah, and then Melinda wrote beautiful. Thank you, Sam. Jonquil Dazzle, stuck with you too, Laura. Yeah, that was gorgeous. Ah, Sam, great poem to end on. I don't know if we should add much to that. Yes. Oh, that's fabulous. Has that been published yet? Have you sent it out?
it was just accepted by the California Poetry Society.
Not a surprise. That's awesome. It's beautiful.
I think it was that was the place.
Well, congratulations, but lovely poem. I'm glad others are going to get to enjoy it as much as we did.
Well, good. I hope so.
That's a good gift to give somebody too.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. All right, guys. Well, if we have no other questions or no one else that wants to read, then we will be ending. And thank you all so very much for being here. And Sam, thank you for reading. Congratulations on the book. Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Great to
Thanks,
hear
Sam.
your voice reading the words.
That's me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So,
Malika.
Oh, my pleasure. Yes, Melinda?
Yeah, could you put the link to where we can get Sam's book?
I sure will. That's a fabulous idea. And normally I do that, and I have totally not done that today. Of course, through Main Street Rag, you can also
Right.
get in touch with Sam directly if you'd like an autographed copy.
Yeah.
So Sam, how would you best like someone to contact you? What email address? And I'll put that in there.
It's Sam Barbee at bellsouth.net.
Okay.
One of the
Easy.
old ones.
And here's the direct link to the book at Main Street Rag.
Yep.
There we go. So I'll give everybody a chance to copy that link if they would like to. There. But directly for him, you'll get an autograph, so that's way better.
That's
what I
right.
would, that's what I would recommend. Thanks.
Okay.
Melinda.
Thank
I
you.
have to say, having moved to Maine, I really enjoyed hearing your North Carolina accent read about England. It was really fun, a pleasure, an extra little pleasure for me. It's
Isn't it
great.
funny the things that add to the experience?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially because it was about England, you know, and I don't know, it was great. It just sort of pulled the geography of the world together for me or something.
How do you like Maine?
Oh, love it.
Good.
Cooler weather, that's for sure. Although today was not bad.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so very much. Be
Thanks,
well.
Sam. Thanks,
Bye.
Malika. Good
Everybody
to
to
see
everybody on
everyone.
Thursday.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye. Be well.
Paul, can you stick around?
Oh, he just already left. That's how
Okay.
quick he moves.
All right. I'll get him.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Malika.
Bye. Oh, my pleasure, Sam. Great job.
Bye-bye.
Bye.